All right, so today we're going to talk about who the Mongols were and why they were so successful and awesome at battle. So, the first thing is their mobility. The Mongols were faster than pretty much anybody up until modern times. I can just tell the bullet Sahil just read because his face was like, yeah. So, here's the thing. Like the Mongols, they're traveling 60 to 80 miles a day. Even in World War II, which was like 70 years ago, people did not travel that fast. Like armies back then would travel 5 to 15 miles. Maybe if it was just a bunch of cavalry, 30. They would go 2 to almost 3 times that, 2.5 times that, 60 to 80 miles. And the ways they would do it, they wouldn't stop. So we have Isha the Mongol riding because there were girl Mongol warriors. She would go and she would put a cut on her horses and go and then put a cup up, collect the blood as it's riding, and drink the blood. It's good for you. High in iron, Aya. Yeah. They would go and only ride female horses so they can milk the horses so they could drink the horse milk as well. Which I think horse milk is something that most people don't drink today. Their favorite drink was fermented horse milk, which means it's kind of like a milk wine or something like that. No, they didn't get sick. They're used to it. Here's the thing, too. The Mongols, unlike any other group at this time, had like a mail system that was able to go through all of Europe and Asia. Like they're able to go and so have messages. So like Isha the Mongol can go send messages to Mide the Mongol from hundreds of miles away, and it would get there. Now, the archers, they could go and kill people at 200 meters, 656 feet. That's really, really far. And this is while they are riding full blast on horseback. This is something that people can't do today because, let's say, like I said, as soon as Sarah was old enough to walk, her daddy would put her on a horse, put a bow and arrow in her hand, and she'd start training. Boys and girls would learn how to do this kind of fighting and things like that. And they had pretty awesome armor. Now, what's wild is the Mongols are going to start as like one of the poorest groups of people ever, and become one of the richest groups of people ever. Like literally you'll be a Mongol. Don't worry, Aiden. The Mongols, when they're first starting out, their clothes were like literally like mouse skins sewn together. Like think about like how many you need 100 field mice or something like that. All their skins sewn together. That was their clothes before, and they would like literally ride them till they disintegrated. They said, so the Mongols are traveling 60, 80 miles away. They said that you could smell the Mongols from miles away coming in because they were so dirty and coming in. And but here's the thing. They're going to go from wearing, mice skins for their clothes to eventually having Chinese silk because they're going to wind up being so successful. But here's the thing. They're going to treat it the exact same way. They're going to wear it till it disintegrates. So don't worry. For all of time, you can pretty much smell the Mongols before they were coming. But yeah, so they had leather armor typically, and it would be under silk or other clothing. And it would be pretty good for the different layers they would wear. It would stop arrows typically from piercing through. The Mongols are going to use tons of different weapons, battle axes, scimitars, lance. The bow is going to be their most famous kind of weapon. But basically the Mongols, if there was something that their enemies used as a weapon and they thought it was effective, they would take it, they would learn it, they would use it. That's one of the great things about the Mongols is just their ingenuity in going and adapting what their enemies had. Well, I mean, some of the areas are pretty cold, so, and I'd rather be a little warm than, a little dead. Now, so we have Genghis Khan. He's going to attack northern China. This is going to happen around 1211. And writers say that so many people were killed that The streets literally were slippery. They were greasy with the fat and flesh of humans. Yeah, I know. Really gross. But that's how the Mongols were. Then what's going to happen is they're going to start going west. The Khwarazm, that's going to be in Persia. And they're going to make a peace treaty with Genghis Khan saying, oh, no, we're not going to fight each other. It's going to be great. But then the Mongols, they were really into trading. And so a caravan of the Mongols was attacked by someone in the Khwarazm Empire. And, of course, Genghis Khan goes and sends an envoy to them saying, hey, one of our merchant caravans was attacked on your territory, and we'd like you to make good on it by, obviously killing anybody involved. And they said no. In fact, then attacked Genghis Khan's envoys and killed them. And that's a big, big political no-no. So Genghis Khan goes and basically destroys the entire Khwarezmian Empire. Entire cities are going to be razed to the ground where they kill every man, woman, and child in the city as revenge. Now, 1227, Genghis Khan is going to die. And what happens is the Mongols, and this is going to happen every time, the Mongols are going to have this huge expansion. But then when their great Khan dies, it stops like that. And no one who's getting attacked knows why it stops. All they know is the Mongols then just leave. And what they have is they have a big meeting, the Kurultai, where they go and pick the new great Khan. Where we're going to have Genghis' son Ogedai Khan, who is going to wind up going and becoming the next great Khan. Now, Ogedai was a super big alcoholic. Remember I said how they like to drink that fermented mare's milk, that milk wine kind of thing? It was so bad, he was drinking so much of this stuff that his advisor said, okay, you're only allowed to have one drink a day because this is out of hand. You're drunk all the time. It's not good for you. No, not really. You just need to have the basic idea that the Mongols conquered a lot here. And so what he does is he has his goldsmith make him a giant golden goblet. When I say giant, I'm talking and he's like, all right, I'll just have one drink a day. Ha ha ha. And he eventually dies because he basically killed himself from having too much alcohol. During this time, we have Russia getting conquered under Ogedai Khan, and all of Russia. And once again, entire cities are going to be completely annihilated. Men, women, children. We're going to have a guy, John of Plano Caprini. He's going to be looking for this person, Praetor John, because Europeans at this time are fighting a war against Muslims called the Crusades, because Europeans, the Christian Europeans and the Muslims all wanted to control the city of Jerusalem. And they're fighting a war over this. And the Christian Europeans are hearing about there's this guy out east, Praetor John, which rhymes with Genghis Khan. You see how it's one of those games of telephone where it changes over time, that is battling Muslims because he was destroying the Khwarezmi Empire because of the whole trade fiasco. And so they didn't realize it had nothing to do with it. They thought, oh, it must be this great Christian king over there who totally has our back. And so they wound up going to try to find Genghis Khan, which they were calling Praetor John. And they meet Ogedai, and Ogedai's like, yeah, no, you guys can swear loyalty to me, and that's that. Yes, Aiden, your question, sir.
Did they even need medics?
Wait, what?
Did they even need
Say that
medics?
again?
Did they even need medics?
Oh, medics? Take care of their own injured? Yeah. Yeah, they would take care of their own. All right. Now, they are going to get all the way to Vienna, Europe. But then when Ogedai dies because he drank way too much alcohol, all of a sudden, the Mongols retreat again. And it's one of these things that now we know what happened because we have the histories of the Mongols. But before that, like, the Europeans were like, okay, they're about to like conquer all of Europe, but then they just leave. And it's one of these things to do a coral tie to pick the next Khan. Now, Munkei Khan is going to wind up becoming the next of the great Khans, which is going to be Genghis's grandson. What's crazy is when Munkei Khan was going to become the next of the great Khans, there's actually this crazy thing going on. Another one of the people who wanted to be Khan, he was quote bringing gifts to him. And because so the squirrel tide, it's a very touchy thing because basically it's where all the Mongols get together and whoever has the most horsemen wins and becomes the next Khan. But you're supposed to be peaceful at it, because it's basically, well, I brought 5,000 and Sarah brought 10,000 and Matthew brought 8,000 and Madeline then brings in 20,000, and then they say, okay, Madeline's the next great Khan because she has the most warriors. Now, of course, they'll all give speeches and see if any of the warriors will switch over. Well, when Munkei was supposed to be the next Khan, one of the Khans there said they had all of these gifts and all of these carriages, but they're all covered up. So all these wagons were covered up, and it's like, oh yeah, these are gifts. Well, inside of the carriages were like tons of like battle axes and swords and everything like that. And one of the people, Europeans, actually came and saw this, and they were just like going and like checking it out, like learning about, and they're like, hey, why are all these battle axes and stuff in this wagon? And Sahil, the Mongols, like, oh, there's no battle axes in there. What are you talking about? And then totally found out this whole huge plot to wind up going and killing Munkei Khan and stealing the coral tide for themselves. Anyways, under Munkei, this is when Baghdad gets totally destroyed. They don't even capture Baghdad. So literally, we talked about how it was one of the greatest cities in the world at this time. They level it to the ground. They fill in the irrigation ditches that were going to make it so they could have all of the plant life and all the farming to support a huge population. It still has not achieved the greatness that it did in 1258 because the Mongols destroyed the city so ruthlessly. It's crazy. One of the things that the Mongols would do is they would go and they would basically go and say, all right, we need to exterminate the population here. They were going to kill every, like I said, man, woman, and child. So they'd say, all right, Jacob, you need to collect 100 ears. And that's what they would do. And Savona, you need to collect 100 ears. And all of their soldiers would have to collect 100 ears. And of course, they get the ears by killing the people. And they would go and have these huge bags filled with ears. And they would send them back to Khan Balik to count the ears to make sure that they wound up going and taking out everyone. Well, they would go and do this, but then they would leave after going and destroying the city. But they would watch. So then after 3 to 7 days, if people were say like Amer was like outgoing and getting groceries, or Emmy was visiting like some distant relatives, they would come back if anyone was going and trying to clean up the place, bury the dead, and then get all of them. So they were literally making sure they exterminated everyone in the city when that was what they wanted to do. Pretty wild, huh? Yeah. Well, they would kill them to take the ear. So that was the Mongols. And we're going to stop there. We've got lots more to talk about with the Mongols. Don't you worry. The stories are just beginning. Because if you thought those stories were crazy, I have even crazier stories for tomorrow. I know, right? It's wild. Isha has like a hairspray or something over top going through her camera. I don't know. Maybe whipped cream kind of thing. All right. So that was our notes for the day. I am going to end the recording.